Hi, I'm Darren Long from Delta Harbour Assets. And this week's Hard Money Show, we're going to talk about the simple things in life: gold, silver, why you should have them as part of your wealth strategy. We're also going to kind of peek under the rug a little bit and see where cryptos are at. It's a sensitive subject, so you might want to tune in, because if you're one of the ones who invested in cryptocurrencies, maybe gold and silver is the answer. That and much, much more. Here it comes.
There are no shortcuts to building wealth today. It takes time, effort, sacrifice, and diversification. But today, diversification means something different than it did in the past. You deserve a more secure way to protect and grow your wealth. At Delta Harbour, we take this to heart. Our mission is to help by inviting you to add physical gold and silver to your wealth strategy. Book a free consultation today and let us show you how to protect and grow your wealth through the ownership of physical gold and silver. Let us show you the Delta difference. Hey, welcome back. It is another edition of the Hard Money Podcast. Lots to be learned, lots to be gleaned, and lots to be made as far as sense is concerned over the next few minutes. So stick around for it. Want to reach out to Darren Long and his entire team. They would love to call gold and silver. It is something you probably do not have in the physical form in your portfolio. Not. We've been doing this for years. You should be all over this like a hobo in a ham sandwich, but we'll give you a shot to get on board today. You want to reach out by phone? Simple, 1-877-323-GOLD, 1-877-323-GOLD, and online to deltaharbor.com, harbor with a U, and all the usual social media channels can be found at Delta Harbour as well, whether that's Instagram or Facebook or Twitter and all those good things. So, Darren, we're set to go here. The podcast is upon us, and it's part and parcel of this show to understand that everything in this world should be taken with a grain of salt, if not a bag of salt. This much we'll all agree on, I think. However, it feels very much to me like we're missing the point. Canadians are not taking this uncertainty and market wobble as seriously as they should. Everybody's kind of like, yeah, I guess it's bad. And that's where we're at. So what do you think about that?
Well, and enter in warm weather, right? So, I mean, the only thing that's going to prevent us from really being focused is having more of that warm weather, because everybody leaves mentally, they check out. I mean, maybe if you're an investor, you've heard the saying, stay till May or play till May and then go away. You know, these are the simple passive things that certainly we as Canadians seem to exemplify more so than the rest of the G8 countries. And in terms of the news we got last week, we mentioned on the show that there was a huge reading in inflation. I mean, 7.7%. We're going to get swamped in a severe kick in the arse from the amount of inflation that's hitting, because street level is probably closer to 10, 12. I read estimates this week that natural gas will be up around 20 to 23% by year's end. Ooh. Again, I don't know if that's a surprise to anyone, but it's a significant uptick in the amount of bills that you have to pay. And when that happens, you know, the world runs on natural gas. So everything else is going to get more expensive as well. Yeah, the major indices that we talked about last week, from the TSX, the Dow, the S&P, to the German and European markets, Chinese markets, all down. I mean, the Chinese markets made a small bit of a recovery, but still down overall. Real estate, as we had mentioned, and we'll talk again on this show, is in the dumps and going down further. And right now, if you grab some real estate, either you're completely insane or you're very wealthy, because, you know, if you don't have 50% or more to lay down on a piece of property for speculative reasons, you're crazy. You're absolutely nuts. I just wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. And so what it all boils down to, John, is that we aren't taking this seriously. I don't see the signs of anyone taking it seriously anyways, not yet. But diversification and smart choices as far as it relates to what we talk about, which is physical gold and silver and your wealth strategy. I mean, this goes hand in hand with that uncertainty you just mentioned, John. And ultimately, this is why we do the show. Get out to as many people as possible and take 5 minutes of your day to just update yourself, read a little bit about what we offer, and find out more about why gold and silver should be part of your wealth strategy.
You know, it's interesting. We did the real estate thing ad nauseum last week, which is good because it's a huge player in this country, as we discussed. But a lot of things that's been going around lately, it's kind of got a little quiet. And that is the whole crypto space, the cryptocurrency. I had buddies at the gym forever saying, man, you got to get some, get it now, get it now. It could be Bitcoin, could be Ethereum, all these different Bitcoins. You got to get on. It's going to be the skyrocket. It's going to be the next, fiat currency or something. Not so much. Not
Not
really.
so much.
What's happening with that now?
Well, I think right now we're having a mental break for those that did invest anyways. I mean, nobody, and the reason why it's quiet, John, is simple, because nobody wants to talk about being a loser, right? I mean, I don't have any shame in saying it, because
Yeah.
I invested very little, and I'm not a passive investor. So when the going was good, I took my money and ran. We seem to forget, because we want to dive down that rabbit hole of belief that things will get better, that things like cryptocurrencies, real estate, and other things like that, they're never going to supersede the traditional investments we've had for thousands of years, which is, in the last 100 or two, to buy paper and gold and silver. And, that's
Yeah.
where you hold your wealth. And it's always been that way. We've tried to change it, right? We've gone to the plastic mentality. We've tried to leverage the hell out of every little thing we can. We've opened bucket shops. We've closed bucket shops. We know in the background derivatives right now are the death of the world. But nobody wants to acknowledge it, because by acknowledging that, you may be on the wrong side of a trade. And like we were just discussing with real estate dropping now, and indices and paper stocks dropping now, hey, it's lights out for the kids that the very young at heart, so to speak, for those that did venture into cryptos. Because right now, John, you have to have a heart that's as strong as an ox in order to stomach that dive or the loss that you had for the cryptocurrency space.
Right.
If you gambled on cryptos, NFTs, bored ape this and ape that. If you bought some of that doggy coin, and
Doggy
all of the
coins.
other make believe assets, I feel for you, man. I really do, because ultimately, if you look at the big, huge, most important of them all in Bitcoin, it's
Yep.
down 58%
I
just
know.
this year. 6 months into the year, halfway, and it's down 58%. Ethereum, the next big one behind Bitcoin, down 70%. And the list just goes on and on. All the high volume cryptos are all down, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70%. And that's not going to end anytime soon, John. So yeah, this is a scary place to be right now. And it is certainly clearly evident to me that my colleagues who couldn't wait to throw it in my face that they became millionaires because of the crypto space, well, they lost it just as fast as they made it. And that reminds us again of the tried and true and tested belief that a balanced and diversified portfolio, one that includes a wealth strategy with gold and silver, physical, always in the long run ends up winning. And that's just the plain truth. It's been that way for thousands of years.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the word gold there, and I mean, Bitcoin, you mentioned the big one. I would say maybe the original, but the big one on the block that everyone has. If they have any trust in crypto, it's probably on Bitcoin, down a huge percentage, like you said, but it was supposed to be the next gold, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. Absolutely. It was supposed to be a replacement for gold, not
Yeah.
just the next gold. I mean, people were talking about and opining about the influence it was going to have on modern currency systems. And it was going to be the next best thing. And John, I'd be the first to admit, who doesn't like a great story? Do I
Yeah.
like technology that's behind crypto? Sure. Do I like blockchain? Yes. Do I like, you know, do I like decentralized financing and money and currencies? Yeah, I love the thought. I love the idea of being free and having the freedom to go anywhere in the world and do anything you want with your money. But ultimately, it has to work for everyone. It can't just work for a small percentage or those that are savvy enough to use the technology. It is a great opportunity and was a great opportunity. It's a spectacular reason to invest and to speculate to become a millionaire. And we've all witnessed the Instagram posts, the YouTube posts of the 20-something kids driving Bugattis around, $3.5 million Bugattis in 4 and 5 and $10 million mansions. Constantly partying on yachts, staying at sea. I watched one the other day where the kid, he made so much money and he said, as long as I'm making money, I'm going to stay at sea. So his whole thing was got a yacht, rented it or bought it, I don't know, and he's staying at sea until he loses. So yeah, hello, welcome to the casino. Let's gamble until we lose, right? Red or black,
Yeah.
there's nothing. in this world that is going to ever replace the beauty of gold, the simplicity of gold, the liquidity of gold and silver for that matter. Um, Cryptos just lack the confidence that gold has had. In the best yet, whole countries bought up Bitcoin, right? I don't know what they were thinking, man. El
Yeah.
Salvador, 9 months into their Bitcoin experiment. Um, El Salvador's nationwide Bitcoin experiment is in the dumps. People will use the term struggling, but it's not struggling. It's done. It's dead.
Mm.
Um, the government's Bitcoin investment has been literally cut in half, John. They lost half of their investment. They put, I think, $104 million into Bitcoin at around 40K, thinking it was a great deal, right? It's down from its almost $70,000 peak. And they've lost 50% now that it's down at 20,000 of their investment. So how that hurts a country that's already hurting, that was looking for creative ways to do it. They fell for it. It's too new. It's not
Mm.
old enough. Doesn't have the track record. Doesn't have the confidence of countries. Not everybody has adopted it. Whereas with gold, everyone in the world has adopted it.
Yeah.
There's no physical actual Bitcoin that exists or cryptocurrency that physically exists. There are some currencies or cryptos that are backed by gold. Okay, I like those. We're pushing more towards what I would say are a good modern fit for what we need moving forward. But ultimately, unfortunately, unless you have a very deep pocket at this point in time, you've lost dramatically, and you got to feel for those losers.
1-877-323-GOLD is the way to reach out to Darren and crew anytime. Talk about that real hard assets, proper assets with track record and history, gold and silver. Reach out to that number, deltaharbor.com, harbor with a U, by the way, to get that investment started. At least have a chat with Darren and his team and enlighten yourself with the education of those hard assets in your portfolio. I don't know though. Do you think people really understand the plight of the world economy, how bad it is? Bitcoin, yes. Stocks, sure. I mean, those things you see almost every night in the 6 o'clock news. Even a passing glance at Google News will give you those. But man, you throw real estate into that big deal, and I don't think people are giving this enough attention, as you mentioned, especially here in Canada when it comes to real estate, because everybody was so heavy into it and still are, right?
Well, they are, right? That's not in the passive tense. We are heavily invested in real estate, and it's in our best interest as a country to protect the real estate market. Now, will they do that? No, they've already started raising interest rates,
No.
and things are uncertain, right? In a nutshell, they suck. I mean, that's the bottom line. This is, you can't sugarcoat it, right? The bullshit that's been spewed by our government and the bullshit that's been spewed by the investing majors, all the banks and all of the big entities. I mean, it goes hand in hand with what you expect in every turn of a cycle, right? There are peaks of a cycle and there are lows of a cycle, right? We're just about heading in. We've gone over the peak. We've just hit about 1 o'clock on the clock. And now we're going to slowly see that fall down to 6 o'clock where we're at our worst. And that's exactly what's going to happen with the real estate market. And, people who went with real estate were last in and now are in a world of hurt. I mean, people who invested $300,000-$400,000 as a down payment just 2 or 3 months ago have lost it. It's gone, right? It's gone. It's evaporated, and that they can't get back, right? They can't get back. Last week we mentioned about that little story of our colleagues in Loretto, Ontario, where they lost their entire down payment, and now they didn't even get the house. Yeah, they brought in an uncle, and now he's done as well. So they took down a massive amount of their family wealth all in one fell swoop. And I don't have an update on it. I'll bring it to you when I do. But if you remain seated on the turbulent airplane with a balanced and diversified wealth strategy that includes gold and silver, John, then history proves that you will come out of this superbly, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, right? Families with mortgages to arrange or refinance with the bulk of their net worth in leveraged real estate may have more cause for concern. But I mean, generally speaking, the average Canadian is going to be okay if they've gone ahead and they've balanced and diversified their portfolio and they've added assets like gold and silver. I love gold and silver right now. I believe in them. I talk about them.
Yep.
I own these assets, right? And I see a ton of similarities to the 1970s, but in supersized format, where the inflation erection we are experiencing is and remains of little match for proper type of wealth strategy. There is no concerns if you have the proper wealth strategy in place. You cannot be fooled into real estate or cryptos right now, although they are perhaps role players. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to shit the bed all over cryptos completely. I want people to understand that They just have a certain role to play, right? Imagine an all-star baseball team. Even on that all-star baseball team, there's a weakest player,
Sure.
right? There are
Yep.
25 all-stars, perennially the best players of their kind, but there's still a weakest player on that team. And right now, that for me is anything that's not physical, right? Even I say that with real estate, grain of salt, as we said earlier, right?
Mhm.
Bag of salt. But they're only role players right now. They're only role players right now. Your wealth strategy needs to be very much locked down at this point in time, unless you got 50% or more to put down on real estate, or you have a deep, deep pocket full of expendable cash that has no bearing or impact on your family outcomes. I'm not buying cryptocurrencies. I'm not delving into real estate right now. Maybe in 4 or 5 months for sure, when it's bottomed, when we've seen the worst of the worst. But money is a competition, John, and we forget that. So yeah, Canadians don't, especially going into summer where we forget about what time of year it is. We forget money is a competition. Wealth is a competition. It's not a
Yes.
passive house league endeavor. You
Mhm.
can't just sit by idly and hope somebody else will do it for you. If you don't take control of your wealth, if you're not managing it, if you're not somehow, some way involved directly in what your wealth is doing for you, what your wealth strategy is, for me, that's a silly way to behave in this day and age, given the uncertainty and the amount of times that people lie to us. We are being lied to hand over fist. Whether it's large companies that go bankrupt or lose stock value because they told lies, whether it's crypto exchanges. I mean, more recently, Celsius. I'm listening to, just watched the one on Netflix the other day about the kid in Vancouver who built this huge crypto exchange and then took $193 million off the table and took the keys to all the crypto wallets with him. I mean, and then ended up dying. I mean, this is the type of stories that people are getting involved in, thinking that they're just making sound investments. And, we have very little or next to no understanding of what the true storyline is. Suffice it to say that, John, nobody can print gold, right? You can't water down by splitting the gold. You have a physical bar or coin, and you can't live in it. It doesn't pay a dividend, but it's not for that purpose, right? It's to
Right.
diversify your wealth. It's to give you something in case of that holy shit moment where you don't know what to do, where you look and open up your wealth portfolio and you've lost half. What are you going to do when you've achieved maximum debt, which is what Canadians are doing, and you've ultimately put yourself in a position where at maximum debt, you've lost half of the cash value of your holdings? Right? You're screwed. So you have to
Yeah.
think about ways to diversify outside of the box. And that's all that we talk about every single week. It's what we're talking about here now. And we have to remember that for every buyer, there's a seller. Do you want to retire early? Stupid question. Of course you do. Do you want that dream cottage? Again, this is a stupid question. Of course you want to retire comfortably. If that means getting the cottage, so be it. If it means the trip to Europe every year, so be it. If it means putting a few $100,000 in your grandchildren's bank so that their life isn't hell, so be it. Whatever your dream is, it has to start with something that is directly involving your wealth strategy. So you have to be part of that process, and you have to think about diversifying and challenge the stereotypes and the norms. Owners of gold and silver have known this for eons, known this for thousands of years.
It's just what it boils down to really is good and proper encouragement for folks to get the hell out. Just do it, do their research on gold and silver, call you, talk to you, change their strategy just to adapt to the time where you get fully diversified and prepare for what's ahead. Like you said, we're at 1 o'clock on the clock and you're heading down to 6, and there's not enough life jackets to go around, man. So you better change your thinking and your direction when it comes to investing. And gold and silver is again where people haven't been looking, and they should, right?
I think it is, and that for me makes the problem very simple, right?
Yeah.
Increasingly, Canadians have opted for a one asset strategy. Most of the time, it's buy a house, hope for the best, cross your fingers, right? Pay the house off, sell the house to finance retirement, and along the way, save and invest a little, right? Who can save right now? You can't. Especially when you're paying $1.5 million for a home, $1.6 million for a home, right?
Crazy.
And you end up with some type of, usually if you have a one asset strategy, you end up with some type of little piece of wealth or portfolio, so to speak. And it ends up being, basically a crappy mutual fund based group RSP from work, plus, your CPP and OAS, as we said on last week's show, right? So without that real estate to dump at 65 or 70, assuming right now we're going to be in a zone of pain for a while, you may be in trouble, right? So unless you, of course, listen to shows like this or adopt that new strategy or be less passive about your wealth, and appreciate the ideas we share about being balanced and diversified in your wealth strategy, and in as for staying balanced and on top of your wealth strategy, you won't be hurt by reading a little here and there, John. You won't be hurt by investing a bit of time in finding out what this is all about. Is gold for you? At the end of the day, that's for you to choose. These are self-directed accounts, all of them. But ultimately, we're here as experts to help you to acquire, to liquidate, to store, to tell you what we think about the gold and silver markets, right? And we are the first to acknowledge it's not always a buy zone, right? We're not always buying. There are lots of times I talk to my clients and say, hey, listen, everyone else is fearful right now. No one's buying. This is not a bad time to add a little bit to the stack. But I am not your planner. I'm not your advisor. I'm not your wealth manager. You bring in the experts to talk about those topics. But understand that a little tiny bit of education can go a very long way. And as we said, John, throughout this show, people are passive here in Canada. And I want them, to take some time to understand where they're at and to understand that the wool has been pulled over our eyes. That's just a fact. We have to accept it. And the times are changing. But for me, it makes you wonder, right? What were people thinking when we went down this path 10, 12 years ago after subprime? We're right back where we began. It's just a different incarnation of it, right? The reincarnation of painful wealth choices that we've made. And here we are right now with a chance to change it, to diversify, to take what we do have left and put it into something else that might be smarter for our families and for our future.
It's interesting too, because you mentioned that, 60 or 70 and that whole 12-year cycle of real estate, which is great if 10 years ago you bought something and you timed it absolutely perfectly and you retired 6 months ago and you cashed out and you're a king. But if you're 64 and you're planning to retire in the next 2 or 3 years, where do you think your real estate's going to be? You've mistimed it. Why? Because you can't time it, because it's not cost averaging. It's betting on a horse that could break a leg halfway down the track. To your point, it's a scary situation for those who are hoping to have this nest egg in the next 2 or 3 years, the way the market's looking and the economy as well. So there you go. And this speaks to why you always say, do your due diligence and look at options and expand that portfolio. Physical gold and silver, good way to start. Give me some options as far as that's concerned, Darren, before we wrap this sucker up for today, as far as how we get into this and what are the best ways to do it, depending on where you stand.
Well, depending on where you stand and what's left in your pocket, first off, make certain that you can afford it, right? You don't venture into anything if you have to borrow, beg, plead, or talk to a family member to get money to invest in something. Ultimately, you have to be dead certain that there is a logic to the reasons you're doing certain things with your wealth, that you understand clearly what it is you're delving into, what gold is, what it's not, right? It's not a stock, it's not a cryptocurrency, it's not real estate, and why you're going to get all of those things in a piece of information and logically put that into the puzzle, and where does it fit? So when you come to Delta Harbour, the very first thing you have to realize is that there is a bit of education on the site, and that education is not for everyone. You might walk away after 5 minutes, and that's okay. We part as friends. That's the saying we have here at Delta. If it's not for you, we part as friends. But ultimately, start by simply going to the store, making a conscious decision to put yourself into a very good and logical situation where you can just look at the products, look at all the options, look at gold, silver, platinum, palladium, bars, and coins, and then just determine basically what you have available to yourself. So ultimately, once you do that, then you're going to know whether or not this is for you. So if you then make the decision to stay along and stay on the website, then you might make the decision to shop from home, and if you want to do that, that's fine. You can add gold and silver that way to your portfolio. put it into your wealth strategy by simply just picking it up, paying for it, and we'll send it home to you. It's not a problem. But for those that know, like we do, that a lot of gold and silver is a safety concern, you would never, ever want to hold that at home. So there is a storage option, John. You can always store product. You can always take it to the vault. We always have that option available. We can talk about that, what it means, what it costs, all of those things. And again, if it's right for you, that's an option for you as well. And as we mentioned earlier in the show, the option of putting gold or silver into your wealth strategy through registered accounts is also an option, right? We can put it into an RSP or TFSA. Today, we opened up 5. Just happens to be one of those days. We did 5 of them. I did RSPs, TFSAs, RESP,
Cool.
and 2 spousal RSPs.
Awesome.
Yeah, very, very interesting way to put, and it's all physical, bar, coin, and it's all going into that beautiful account that you have that has all kinds of amazing features and tools at your disposal, whether it's the TFSA, it's capital gains free, or whether you want to have the RSP and have the beauty of the deferred taxes long term. It's up to you. It's your choice. It won't matter to us. We're there to assist you and walk you through that. But yes, you can put it in there. And the best of all, John, you can bring it in from another account. If you're already parked with another institution, don't worry. If that money's not working for you, you're ready to get it out of there, give us a call. We'll help walk you through that, and you can bring that money over. There is no charge to do that, no fees. And if there is, we'll cover them. But ultimately, you can do that as well. And then lastly, John, one of the best things you can do is if you're not certain about owning bars or coins, or you don't know whether to buy 1 ounce bars or 100-ounce bars, you just aren't certain, maybe the Delta Vault account is for you. We call this bulk bullion. And essentially what that means is we'll put the gold and silver in the vault, and we'll worry about the bars and the types that we have. We'll pay those high premiums. You pay the lowest possible premium that you can. And ultimately, that just means that simply if you want exposure to physical gold and silver, you'll get the option to have that in that account. That's the Delta Vault account. And also, you have the option to use your bullion as collateral for additional purchases. So you could have up to 80% financing for people who this is for. And that might make it fun beyond to the next level. And if it's not for you, then obviously you have other choices as well. But there's all kinds of easy ways to get into this market. And it all starts with that website, John, or the phone number, which is easy to use.
And that is it for another show. Fantastic stuff, pal. And we're going to leave it at that. Yeah, you want to reach out to Darren, the website, of course, deltaharbor.com, harbor with a U, because we're Canadian. And this investment, as always, starts with you. And the phone call is just as good, 1-877-323-GOLD, to reach out to Darren and the team. And of course, all the social media channels are there, YouTube and Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Simply search Delta Harbor with a U to do that as well. And we'll catch you next time on the Hard Money Podcast.